For 3 entire years of my life, I lived in a state of self-imposed financial prison. I followed the exact advice that every traditional financial guru preaches. I built the ultimate color-coded, perfectly formatted spreadsheet. I tracked every single penny that entered my life and every single penny that left it. If I bought a coffee, it went into the spreadsheet. If I put gas in my car, it was logged. If I bought a pack of gum at a convenience store, I proudly took the receipt home and typed the exact amount into a designated expense category. I divided my money into digital envelopes. I restricted my spending. I analyzed my habits. And I obsessed over my financial data. I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was acting like a responsible adult. I believed that this relentless micromanagement of my money was the guaranteed path to wealth. But I'm here to tell you a harsh, uncomfortable truth that will completely shatter everything you have been taught about personal finance. Budgeting is a lie. Traditional budgeting is one of the most toxic, exhausting, and counterproductive financial habits you can possibly adopt. After 3 years of tracking every single transaction, I realized something terrifying. I was not building wealth, I was just managing my poverty. I was spending hours of my life staring at a screen, feeling guilty about buying a sandwich, while completely ignoring the actual mechanics of wealth creation. Tracking every penny did not make me rich. It made me miserable, it made me anxious, and it kept me completely stagnant. If you're currently trying to maintain a strict budget, if you're saving receipts, logging expenses, and constantly feeling a deep sense of guilt every time you spend money on something that brings you joy, I have incredible news for you. You can stop. You have permission to close the spreadsheet, delete the budgeting app, and never track a single cup of coffee ever again. Today, I'm gonna expose exactly why traditional budgeting is designed to keep you trapped in a scarcity mindset. I'm gonna show you the massive psychological damage it causes, and most importantly, I'm gonna give you the exact automated stress-free system that wealthy people actually use to grow their money without ever looking at a budget. To understand why traditional budgeting is so destructive, we have to look at the psychological concept of decision fatigue. Human beings only have a finite amount of willpower and mental bandwidth available to them on any given day. Every single time you make a decision, no matter how small, you drain a tiny bit of that mental energy. When you force yourself to stick to a strict line item budget, you're forcing your brain to make hundreds of micro decisions every single week. When you walk into a grocery store, you're calculating whether buying the slightly more expensive brand of pasta will push you over your grocery limit for the month. When a friend invites you out to dinner, you are mentally agonizing over which category that dinner falls into and whether you have enough funds left in your entertainment envelope. By the time you get through a normal week of budgeting, your mental bandwidth is completely fried. You have spent an enormous amount of psychological energy trying to save $14 because your brain is completely exhausted by these trivial, microscopic financial decisions. You have absolutely no energy left for the things that actually matter. You have no mental bandwidth left to learn a high income skill. You have no energy left to start a side business. You have no creative capacity left to figure out how to negotiate a massive raise at your job. You're spending 10 hours a month playing financial defense, trying to protect a few pennies when you should be playing financial offense, trying to acquire thousands of dollars. The entire premise of traditional budgeting is based on the myth of the latte factor. We have all heard this terrible advice. Financial gurus look at you through a camera lens and tell you that the reason you're not a millionaire is because you buy a $4 coffee every morning. They tell you that if you just stop buying coffee, stop eating avocado toast, and stop having any fun whatsoever, you will eventually become incredibly wealthy. This is mathematically absurd, and it is incredibly insulting to your intelligence. Let us actually do the math on the infamous coffee myth. Let us say you spend $5 a day on a coffee 5 days a week. That is $25 a week. That is roughly $100 a month. That is $1,200 a year. Yes, $1,200 is a nice chunk of change, but cutting that out of your life is not gonna make you rich. It is not gonna buy you a house. It is not gonna allow you to retire 10 years early. The problem with your financial life is not the $5 coffee. The problem with your financial life is the fact that you are paying $2,500 a month in rent, $800 a month for a car payment, and you have not had a significant increase in your income in 4 years. Budgeting forces you to focus your attention on the absolute smallest, most irrelevant variables in your financial life. It tricks you into feeling financially productive because you successfully cut $50 out of your monthly expenses, but there is a mathematical ceiling to budgeting. You can only cut your expenses down to zero. You cannot spend less than nothing, but your ability to earn money has absolutely no ceiling. Your income potential is infinite when you spend all of your time looking downward, analyzing your expenses with a magnifying glass. You're completely ignoring the infinite sky above you. The wealthy do not become wealthy by skipping their morning coffee. They become wealthy by figuring out how to increase their income by $50,000 a year, which makes the cost of a daily coffee completely irrelevant. Furthermore, traditional budgeting puts you into a perpetual scarcity scarcity mindsets. Scarcity is a psychological disease. When you track every penny, your brain becomes hyper-focused on lack. You look at your bank account not as a tool for freedom, but as a dwindling resource that must be fiercely protected. You begin to view the world as a place of limitation. When you operate from a place of scarcity, you become terrified to take risks. If a massive opportunity comes along, perhaps investing in a new business venture or taking a pay cut to join a startup with massive upside, you will turn it down. You will turn it down because your spreadsheet says you cannot afford to take a risk. Scarcity makes you play small. It makes you play not to lose instead of playing to win. Budgeting also creates a toxic cycle of restriction and binging. It is exactly the same psychology as a crash diet. When someone decides to lose weight by completely restricting their calories and depriving themselves of every food they enjoy, what inevitably happens? They might last for a few weeks or even a few months, but eventually the deprivation becomes too much to handle. Their willpower snaps and they end up binge eating an entire cake in the middle of the night. Then they feel an immense amount of guilt, shame, and self-loathing, which causes them to abandon the diet entirely. This is exactly what happens with your money when you force yourself onto a strict financial diet. You are depriving yourself of the simple joys of life. You say no to dinners, no to vacations, and no to buying things you genuinely love. You white knuckle your way through the month. But eventually, the psychological pressure builds up. You have a terrible week at work, you feel exhausted, and your willpower completely breaks. You end up going on a massive online shopping spree or booking an expensive trip you cannot afford simply because you're desperate for a release from the constant restriction. Then you look at your spreadsheet. You see that you blew past your budget and you're consumed by financial guilt. You feel like a failure. This cycle of restriction, binging, and guilt destroys your relationship with money. Money is supposed to be a tool that brings you freedom and joy, not a weapon that you use to punish yourself. So if traditional budgeting is a toxic lie, what is the alternative? How do you actually manage your money, build wealth, and avoid going broke without ever tracking a single penny? The answer is a concept called reverse budgeting, or paying yourself first. This is the exact system that wealthy people use to effortlessly grow their net worth while spending their money completely guilt-free. Reverse budgeting completely eliminates decision fatigue. It requires absolutely no spreadsheets, no tracking apps, and zero willpower. Once you set it up, the entire system runs on complete autopilot. Here's exactly how the automated wealth system works. Instead of tracking your expenses at the end of the month to see what you have left over to save, you secure your savings and investments at the exact second you get paid. Before you ever have the chance to spend a single dime, you flip the entire equation upside down. To execute this, you need to set up a specific architecture of bank accounts. You should have one primary checking account, which we will call the central hub. You have one high yield savings account, which acts as your emergency fund. You have one investment account, which holds your index funds or retirement portfolio. And finally, you have a second checking account, which we will call the guilt-free spending account. When your paycheck hits your central hub on Friday morning, the automation takes over. You set up automatic transfers with your bank so that the exact moment the money arrives, specific percentages are immediately pulled out and sent to their designated destinations. First, the automation sends 15 to 20% of your paycheck directly into your investment account. This money is gone, you do not see it, you do not touch it, and you do not think about it. This is the money that is aggressively buying assets, compounding in the background, and building your future wealth. Second, the automation pulls out the exact amount needed for your fixed mandatory survival expenses. This includes your rent or mortgage, your utilities, your insurance, your minimum debt payments, and a basic allowance for groceries. This money stays in the central hub and your fixed bills are put on autopay to draw from this specific account. At this point, your future is entirely funded and your survival is entirely guaranteed. The most important financial tasks of your life have been executed perfectly, and you have not made a single conscious decision. You have not looked at a spreadsheet. You have not agonized over a budget. Now, whatever money is left over, the remaining surplus of your paycheck is automatically transferred into your second checking account, the guilt-free spending account. This is where the magic happens. This is where you experience true financial liberation. The money sitting in your guilt-free spending account is entirely yours to blow. You can do absolutely whatever you want with it. If you want to spend it all on designer clothes, go ahead. If you want to use it to buy $5 coffees every single day, do it. If you want to blow it all on an incredible weekend out with your friends, you have complete permission. You do not need to track where this money goes. You do not need to categorize the transactions. You do not need to feel a single ounce of guilt. Why? Because your investments are already fully funded. Your bills are already paid. You have literally bought the right to waste this money. When you swipe the debit card linked to your guilt-free spending account, you experience zero financial anxiety. The only rule is that when the account hits zero, you stop spending until the next paycheck arrives. You have created a system of artificial scarcity that forces you to live within your means without the agonizing pain of tracking every penny. By implementing this automated reverse budget, you instantly reclaim massive amounts of mental bandwidth. You take the 10 hours a month you used to spend auditing your receipts and maintaining your color-coded spreadsheets, and you redirect that energy toward playing financial offense. Financial offense is where real wealth is created. Instead of asking yourself, how can I cut $20 out of my budget this week? You start asking yourself, how can I increase the amount of money flowing into the top of this system? When your finances are automated, your mind is free to focus on extreme income generation. You use your newly found time and energy to negotiate a higher salary. You invest your time into learning high value skills like copywriting, coding, or sales. You begin exploring side hustles that can generate an extra $1,000 a month. When you successfully increase your income, you do not change the system. You just let the automation handle the new influx of cash. The percentages remain the same. The extra money automatically increases the raw dollars flowing into your investment accounts, accelerating your path to financial freedom. Your wealth scales effortlessly without any additional administrative burden on your end. The financial industry wants you to believe that wealth requires complexity. They want you to believe that you need sophisticated tracking software, complex budgeting theories, and constant daily anxiety to manage your money correctly. They sell you budgeting apps, financial planners, and premium bank features, profiting off your desire to feel in control. But tracking every penny is not control, it is an illusion of control. Real control is building a machine that operates independently of your emotions, your willpower, and your daily attention. You have to accept that your time is your most valuable asset. Every minute you spend staring at your past expenses is a minute you steal from your future potential. Looking backward at what you spent last Tuesday will never make you rich. Looking forward at how you can provide more value to the marketplaces, the only thing that will move the needle. I regret the 3 years I spent tracking every penny because I realized I was trading my precious time for the feeling of being productive without actually producing anything. I let a spreadsheet dictate my happiness. I let a budget dictate my ambition. The moment I abandoned the budget, automated my investments, and gave myself permission to spend the rest guilt-free. My net worth exploded. It exploded because I was finally focusing on the macro instead of the micro. I was focusing on the dollars instead of the pennies. You're allowed to enjoy your life. You're allowed to buy the things that bring you happiness. You do not have to live like a monk to become a millionaire. You just have to be smart enough to put the boring mandatory parts of wealth creation on autopilot so you can spend your actual conscious energy living your life and expanding your horizons. Drop the guilt, drop the scarcity mindset, drop the spreadsheet. If you're ready to completely stop budgeting and you want to implement this exact automated system right now, you need to know exactly how to structure your accounts and where to send your investments. So they grow the fastest, you need to understand exactly which assets to select so your automated money works as hard as possible. To get the complete detailed breakdown of how to build this automated wealth machine from scratch, click on the video appearing on your screen right now. It will give you the exact blueprint to put your entire financial life on autopilot, but before you do, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another strategy to simplify your wealth. Okay, I will see you over there.